G'day, welcome to Horsepower. I'm Willie and welcome to the first episode of the GT86 rally car build. If you've seen my last episode, you know this is the car and the plan is to turn it into a rally car. To start off with, we're going to keep the factory engine, factory gearbox, and we're just going to do some basic mods to get it ready to go rallying. Here's a run through of the parts I've been collecting over the past 6 months or so. Whenever something comes up cheap or fair price, I snap it up, and then when I sold my Corolla I went on a bit of a shopping spree. So here are the main bits we're putting on. I've collected a lot of other bits, mostly related to a manual conversion. That first 86 that I bought, the blue one, was automatic, and so the plan was always to convert that to manual. I don't need to do that anymore because the new one is already manual, so hopefully I can sell some of that gear. But yeah, here we go. Here we have some brake calipers. So these are off some kind of WRX, and the front's apparently bolt straight on, and the rears have this wee adapter bracket. So obviously 4-pot fronts, 2-pot rears. The good thing about these is there's a huge range of pads available, so they should be a nice wee upgrade over the stock brakes. And so this kit, I believe a car come into the country and needed to go through compliance, so the guy put it back to factory and took these off. Also comes with a set of matching rotors as well. So the only other little concern is I'm not 100% sure if they fit under 15-inch wheels, so we'll have to look and see how that goes. Next we have some coilovers. So these are some proper rally coilovers. So these are big 50mm inverted strut. These are not for an 86. These are actually for an Evo. I picked these up actually many years ago because they were cheap. I hope they're all good, but it just so happens that the general size, length and design is actually pretty damn close to the 86. I'll obviously have to do some modifications to make them work. I have to lop off these ears and weld on ones that are going to fit the 86, as well as either modify or swap out these top hats. So these are Drummond Motorsports, so these are made in Australia. They're reasonably well renowned. So obviously these are going to be for the front. And then for the rear, I spent some money and brought some MCAs. These are also made in Australia. So a real work of art, these things. In a rear-wheel drive car, grip is so important, so you really want everything you can in terms of getting the power to the ground. And I don't know much about dampers, but MCA do, so I got them to make these. They are an off-the-shelf item, somewhat like everything they make in the Gold series is made to order. So you tell them what you're going to do with the car, and any special modifications which may change them, may alter the spring rates or the damper rates or whatever else. So I spoke to Murray at MCA and he made me up these. So these are remote canister, so they're two-way adjustable, both bump and rebound, and they've got these extra long top hats, so I'm going to have to modify the chassis a wee bit, so that pokes through the floor just for a bit more travel. So they definitely look very nice, and hopefully they work. I've got MCAs in my Celica and I really like them, so I'm pretty confident these are going to go well. Moving on, a few bits and pieces. You have a rear brake bias controller, so that'll probably go in near the gear shifter somewhere, and that just means I can basically stop flow to the back brake if so I'm going to remove the factory portioning valve and put this in its place, so it just means we can fine tune that and get the brake balance just right. Got an ethanol sensor from MCell, it's a good New Zealand company selling all sorts of motorsport electronics. A problem with these 86s is the front tie rod mount will foul a 15, and I've played around earlier and put these spacers on and found that if you put that on, it clears the 15-inch wheel on the front anyway, and on the rear it's not really a problem. And then finally, from Kaz, I bought proper limited slip differential along with some seals, bearings. They didn't come with it, I bought those separately, and some oil. So this is a two-way LSD, and I will be putting this into, well, I'm going to take the diff out of my blue car and swap that, and then the Torsen from the race car will go into the blue car. So that's the order bits. I'll no doubt have to buy more bits and pieces as we go along the journey, but most of the money spent is here. The first job, I'll lift it up in the air and take the diff out. Now I have got a hoist and I would love to use it, but I've got a lot of cars here at the moment and I've got a customer car on the hoist, so I'm sort of chipping away at this in my evenings and whenever I've got an hour or two spare here and there. So I've squeezed it into the workshop, and unfortunately I'm going to have to get under this and do it old school. After a bit of a struggle, the diff is out. I haven't removed a diff from one of those before, so I kind of had to learn how to do it. It wasn't too difficult. I just had to loosen some lower control arms to pull the axle away. Anyway, it's out now. I've just whipped the back off it to check the condition, make sure there's nothing wrong with it. It all looks okay to me. So obviously they are a Toyota Subaru collaboration, and so they've got a mix match parts of both Toyota and Subaru, mostly Subaru, but the diff, fortunately for us, is very much a Toyota. This is a G series diff, and it has the same size crown wheel as many Hiluxes, Supras, Altezas and Chasers and many other things. And the good thing about that is that we can change the ratios really easy. There's like, I don't know, 7 or 8 different ratios in this size crown wheel pinion, so we have a lot of choice, whereas if it was a Subaru diff, well, A, they don't make a diff this big that I'm aware of, and B, you'd probably only have 2 or 3 ratios to choose from. So I'm glad they used the Toyota diff. And so factory, it comes with a 4.1 ratio, and then in the facelift version I believe they went to a 4.3. I can see why. They're quite underpowered cars, and giving it a little extra torque to the wheels can really liven them up. And so I'm going to do a similar thing, but instead of going to a 4.3, I'm going to go shorter again and go to a 4.5 diff. So that means changing the crown wheel and the pinion. Those sets are really easy to get. They're sort of like $500 worth. So as well as that, I'm going to put a Kaz LSD in it. I'm a bit short on time, and so I'm going to just drop this off at the diff shop. They do diffs all day long every day, so they're far quicker, far more efficient than I could do it. They'll also have all the shims and seals and any other bits and pieces on the shelf, so they should be able to put it together really quickly. And basically the other thing I forgot to mention is my other car, my first GT86 that I bought, has an open diff. It's a really early poverty spec version, and I could use an upgrade. So I'm going to put this diff into the blue car, and then take the diff out of the blue car and upgrade from that open diff to the CAS diff, and therefore we're not pulling apart a perfectly good Torsen. Now the diff's gone off to the diff shop to get a big birthday. I've got a bit of time to work on the rest of it. The next job is some controlled destruction. In the interior here, there is far too much interior for my liking. I'm not sure if it's by design or whether it's my idea, but having those back seats in there might be quite useful for storing helmets. So I'll take them out, but they might end up going back in. There's all of this crap which is really just not doing anything at all. So that'll all come out. Same with the two front race seats, and basically all of the carpet. Rear door cards will stay. Center console will probably go. I've got to mount up an hydraulic handbrake here somewhere, so that'll probably make it difficult. I do want to keep it reasonably comfortable. When you're doing a rally, you do spend a lot of time in here. You know, might be maybe 8 hours in a day. So you want it comfortable, but in saying that, most of these panels don't make it more comfortable. When you got shoes on your feet, you don't care if it's got carpet. Anyway, so let's get out some tools and start ripping it apart. That is the interior out. A surprisingly large amount of crap came out of it. So it didn't really look like much, but when you see it all lying on the floor, it's a lot of stuff and a lot of weight as well. So I'm feeling a lot better about working on the inside of this thing now. Everything's easy to get to. One thing I'd like to mention is, man, they make this so nice to put aftermarket seats into. There's no big humps around the tunnel here. The like these cross rails here are really low down, so you can get your racing seat really nice and low, which gives you room for sliders if you want it. I've got a few decisions to make. Firstly, the racing seat came with a slider. It's a bit shit, so I probably won't use it. It would be nice to shift the seat back, maybe so I could let other people drive it if they're lucky. And the other decision is whether I'm going to keep this factory handbrake. So I'm definitely going to put hydraulic handbrake into it, which will be an inline brake, and just use the factory calipers. And then it doesn't really matter whether I keep this or not. When you're rallying, you're often stopping on hills and awkward places, so it's really nice to have a nice handbrake. And basically all of the aftermarket hydraulic handbrakes don't really have a decent locking mechanism. I could maybe make one for it. It'll be a faff, it'll be a lot of work. It would be a lot easier just to keep this. And saying that, it does seem like a bit of dead weight when I could probably make a locking mechanism and use the hydraulic. Anyway, I'll sleep on it for now. The handbrake will be mounted up around here somewhere, but before I do that, I want to mount the driver's seat. This is the seat I've chosen. It is a Racetech, I don't know what model it is, but it's a pretty nice seat. It's brand new. It fits me really nicely. It's a lot skinnier than the seats that came out of it. I'm definitely not skinny, but I haven't eaten that many pies, so yeah, just looking at it compared to the other one, it's a lot smaller. This is a high quality New Zealand made seat. Not that New Zealand made had a big influence in me buying it, but I just went into the race car parts shop and sat in a bunch of seats, and this was the most comfortable. Because we're doing rallies, it needs to be FIA approved. You see some cheap ones and they're all real floppy. This one feels really solid, so pretty happy with it. Let's get it in there and see how it fits. Here are the rails that came out of it. Obviously we've got some race check seat brackets there, but I'm not sure of the origin of these sliding rails, whether they're factory or out of another car or aftermarket. So this one here seems pretty tight, but this one here seems really loose. I'm not sure if it's missing some bits out of it, but any scrutineer is going to go and wiggle the seat and it's going to flop around, so probably don't want to use that. So I think that basically forces my decision. I'll just make some fixed mounts and maybe down the track I'll put some sliding rails in, some better ones. A decision is made on how it's going to get mounted. This is the seat bracket here, and I've marked basically where the bolt point is, so I'll sit in here with the seat and see where it wants to sit, and so it's got to sit on that rail like that, and then back here it's got to sit in free air. So I could put a piece of flat bar across there and then bolt that to the flat bar. It'll give a bit of flex at this point here, and I really want it sitting nice and solid. What I've decided to do is get a piece of tube. So this is the same grade as roll cage tube, 38mm, and that is going to go crosswise there under the back mount, and then I'm just going to reinforce the mounting plate, or the mounting sort of end, with some 3mm plate, ground back the paint off that, and then just got a piece of 3mm plate, chopped it and gave it a wee bend, so that'll sit in there nicely like that. And same sort of thing for this side, and then we'll trim that to suit. That'll drop in, get welded all up, and then here the factory bolt points won't quite work, so you could in theory sort of run a 10mm bolt straight through there, but then this width, it won't be quite right, so I want to get some more 3mm plate and weld it to the top, and then drill and tap exactly where that plate hole is going to go. I did consider taking this whole thing out and then re-welding in another bar here, but that sort of seems a bit pointless when you've already got a nice structural member there. These are all the mounts tacked in, ready to fully weld. You can see the little square plates that I've made here, and they'll get welded along the edge, which is close to that edge to keep it nice and strong. And then over here, a couple of little spuds, so they'll get tapped. They'll get welded around there and then get tapped. And yeah, no, pretty happy with how it's all turned out. So I'll put the seat in there and check that everything's sitting where it should, and it feels really good. The ergonomics in this car are really nice in terms of the position of the steering wheel relative to the pedals and relative to the gear shifter. And I've got to say, this is the nicest floor pan I've ever had to put seat mounts into. It's just so nice in terms of how basic it is. Right, so now we just now we've got happy with where everything is. I'll fully weld everything, and that's the driver's side done. Now that I've installed the driver's seat, I turn my attention to the passenger seat. And this is the seat that Jason, my co-driver, has chosen. This is a Sparko Evo Large. He must have been eating a few more pies than he usually does. And what I've done is I've mounted up one of the brackets here, and we'll put it in the car and then see where our mount's going to go. The passenger seat's a lot easier. We don't have to consider driving position. We basically just mount it as low as we can to the floor and probably far enough back. There's not a huge amount of space to sort of shift it way back because of that. With a rear wheel drive, we sort of want as much weight on the rear axle as possible. Traction may be an issue with this thing, as it is with any two-wheel drive rally car. So we'll try and get our weight far back and as much onto the rear axle as we can. So that should be pretty easy. Unlike the driver's seat, I probably can't utilise this. So probably what I'll end up doing is putting two bars. I'm guessing one there and one there-ish. But we'll put the seat in and see how it looks. Basically a rinse and repeat on the passenger side. It's a bit of a mess in here to clean up now. So we can see front bar, rear bar, studs all in, ready to go. Just need to grind it back, tidy up those welds a little bit, and same on the other side, and then give it a paint. And then the next job is to install the handbrake. Given all the seat rails that we paint, you may wonder why they're black. So I plan to paint this whole interior black at some point. It's not really to my liking. So that'll be black for now. That'll be right. We'll see how we go time-wise, but before the first event I probably won't have time. Obviously there's a lot of other work to do. And I've also made a handbrake mount. So that is a piece of 3mm sheet that's got a return here, and then it sort of sits up so that it clears the gear stick sort of arrangement, and then as well at that end and that end, and that takes that handbrake there. The reason it comes up and over this is just to get it as far away from the passenger's leg as possible. If you're involved in a crash and the passenger's legs are here and it goes across and gives it a whack, then it's not going to be too fun. So yeah, that should work out nicely. I now install the brackets and the seat and test fit myself in it. This is the part where I imagine myself on a rally stage and make brum brum noises. This concludes this episode of Horsepower. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.